been a total sham from the beginning. Everybody knows it. I've never seen the Republican Party so united. We got, for our last vote, as you know, we got 100% of the vote. I believe the Senate is equally as well united. I watched Mitch McConnell this morning. I watched numerous people last night, senators, and I think we're equally well united. They know it's a hoax, it's a witch hunt, and it's just a continuation. It's been going on now for almost 3 years. And it probably started before I even won the election, based on what we're finding out with the insurance policy quotes and other things. So it's a disgrace, yes. He took a perfect phone call that I had with the president of Ukraine, an absolutely perfect call. You know it, they all know it. Nothing was said wrong in that call. To impeach the president of the United States for that is a disgrace, and it's a mark in our country. And I'll tell you what, other presidents in the future, unless they do something about this, other presidents are going to have to live with this. And every time they do something that's a little bit unpopular, a little bit strong, even if they're 100% right, because I've done a great job. When you look at the kind of jobs we've created, when you look at the economy that we've created, when you look at rebuilding the military, taking care of the vets, you just take a look at what we've done with choice, veterans' choice, with accountability in the vets, with what we've done to protect our Second Amendment, and so many other things. Nobody's done as much as I've done in the first 3 years.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, as the Democrats push for impeachment on Capitol Hill, we are actually seeing President Trump coming out, releasing a statement where he's saying, it seems, possibly, that there is open war going on against his administration. We're going to get into what that really means. Plus, we're going to take a look at the latest new Q posts, which talk exactly about how we are getting it done behind the scenes. So you guys are going to want to stick around and check that out. Hi, my name is Craig, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. You guys, I want to say thank you, first of all. If you've come here and hit that subscribe button, if you guys haven't done that yet, that's fine. Just come here. Please click the big red subscribe button and know you're helping out this channel. It makes a big difference. Today, we're going to pick up right where we left off. We left off at Q post 3700, and of course, we're at 3701 plus. We have a whole bunch of other new Q posts, including a letter from President Trump, which we're going to cover here today, which tells us everything we need to know about what is happening. And remember, this letter that was released by President Trump was released on the 17th, yesterday. That's a very significant date. As you guys know, everyone who follows this channel should very well know what that significance is. But if you don't, Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet, and there you go. So with that, though, I have to remind everybody, come back here, watch these videos, share them on your social media, get the word out that way. Why do I always say that? Well, you know the drill. They are literally pushing this content down. They're suppressing it. They're not suggesting it. They're taking away any incentive to create it. And they are doing everything they can to actually limit the reach. Why? Because they are terrified that we are going to expose them and their complicity in covering up these crimes and their corrupt actions against you, we, the American people, and the world at large, really. So all I say is, look, watch these videos, share them on your social media, get it out that way, hit the share button on this video, and this video right here, What is QAnon the Great Awakening, will give you all the info you need to know. Go check it out. It's a great video if you don't know about what we're talking about here and you want to learn more. So I really encourage you to go check that out. So with that being said, here we are. We're picking up at Q post 3701. And the first thing we have is this Paul Sperry tweet, which, as you can tell, doesn't exist anymore. Oh, well, luckily, I was able to actually find it on the Internet Time Machine. You anons out there captured it really quickly and made sure it didn't go away. This is the tweet that is in question here, the one that's been, I guess, removed or deleted. I'm not sure if Paul Sperry deleted it or if it was removed by Twitter, but either way, I think we have a lot of information just in this one tweet that Q points us to. It says, rewind, January 29, 2018, FBI Director Wray issued a statement rebutting the Nunes memo on FISA abuses and warning Trump not to declassify or release it, citing quote-unquote grave concerns with inaccuracies and omissions in the memo. Now we know Wray, too, was lying. It's interesting to read this tweet and then to really think about it in the sense of what is being said here. What is being said is that we're being reminded of Director Wray and this statement that came out, and Q in relation to that says, the swamp runs deep, sleepers everywhere, think Coates, Wheels in motion, Q. Well, that's very interesting the way that it was put in this context and form. And I think what this really means is that we have people inside of our administration's top law enforcement agency right now who are possibly still acting on behalf of the deep state, trying to cover up for the crimes and corruption that was put against President Trump. And that, in and of itself, is a terrifying prospect. But so with that being said, coming here to the next post, Q says, the Senate must be unrestricted to conduct other important business. If Democrats knew Senate would not vote to convict, why proceed? How long does a typical Senate impeachment trial take? Can the Senate conduct other business during this time? No. What value might this have for Democrats? Barr, Durham working in secret, Senate working openly, value of public learning the truth to prior to information unseal, propaganda push failing, transparency and accountability is the only way forward to save the republic. This is not another 4-year election. Game theory, Q. So think about it. What Q's saying is pretty simple, right? He's saying, why are they trying to push a trial into the Senate? Is it possibly because we know this is the time that the indictments are coming, that the Durham investigation is going to be wrapping up, that the Huber investigation is going to be wrapping up, that the FISA, that everything's going to be unsealed, basically. All the indictments, not information indictments is what it means here. Indictments being unsealed, right? Think about that. Since they realize their propaganda push is failing, they figure, okay, well, now we're really going to have to push this into the Senate to distract the Senate from being able to effectively do their jobs. Like, just remember how the entire Russia hoax, right, was put together as a blockade against President Trump and against them getting anything of substance done in order to undermine his administration. Well, the same principle now is going into the Senate. And they don't care if they destroy this country because, like I've said, these people would rather, for the most part, destroy our country than be held accountable for their crimes and corruption and complicity in cover-ups. So this, to me, is just another indication that what President Trump is saying when he comes out publicly and publishes a statement and puts it into, as he says, a permanent and indelible record, right? And calls out the treasonous Democrats for waging open war on his administration, he's not lying. But there is the national security component. Don't ever forget, we have to keep somewhat of a strong front for the world, correct? We have to present ourselves as being a nation of laws and justice and order. And we lose all of those things if we allow the Democrats to continue to push and try to squeeze this president into following what they've been co-opted into or chosen to get into through their own corrupt criminal activities. This is what it's all about. This is what it's all coming down to, ladies and gentlemen. As it says here, transparency and accountability is the only way forward. Why? Because we have to set the standard of excellence for the globe, and we have to show the world that we are going to hold those who may have worked with them or allowed them to buy influence or to sell to help facilitate the sale of our secret technology to other countries, the stealing of our technology to other countries. This is not as much their problem, even though it is a big deal for them, as it is our problem. We have to clean house. We have to hold these people accountable. And we can't allow them to weaponize the political process and the congressional oversight abilities that they have in order to protect their corruption and complicity and their selling out of America. And in some cases, veritable treason. So this is why everything we're doing here is so important. They've co-opted the mainstream media, so they won't talk about it. The only things we have left are Congress and our voice, right? And the President of the United States and certain patriots inside of our government and certain agencies, organizations, and etc., who love this country and are going to do everything they can to save it. So that is an interesting thing to look at. The next post here, obviously, is Q giving us this older post back from March of 2019 where Q told us James ate corny. Well, what's fascinating here is that Anons identify the error made regarding Corny versus Comey. Think recent doc release Q. Well, what does that have to do with? That has to do with the IG report. Inside the IG report, you actually have Comey, Corny mentioned many, many times. Now, what I find interesting, though, is when you go to the IG report and put James Corny in, you only have 17 left. Now, there are more mentions of just Corny, which I think is like 160 something, but think about that. Think about what that signifies. Number 17. Why are we here? What are we doing? Like I said, we're holding those those who have committed these crimes accountable. So, and that goes right into the next post here, where this Lizzie Bell Fox tweet, right? She says, very curious stuff. Who could have altered Horowitz to make the to make the RN in Comey look like an M? Other instances of R and N have the natural gap, RN. Very close to M, but completely different as the kerning. Only in the name Comey, or Comey Corny, I guess, has the kerning reduced to look like M. So think about this. What if this was like some deep state trick they've been doing for a long time to avoid, a little something called FOIA, Freedom of Information Act requests for information? How do you do that? You have to search the information, and then you have to put these queries in for names, and you have to try to request things. So you request the names of any document that contain Comey's name or mention from this date to that date. Well, what if they doctored those documents in order to say, oh, well, we really aren't breaking the law, we're just tampering with the federal record? Well, that's breaking the law too. And that's also another way that they have avoided being captured. And that's why you don't hear this on the mainstream news, is no one reporting the fact that inside the IG report, this massive document, there's 100 and something typos where the director's name is not even spelled correctly, right? But it looks exactly like an M or an R, or excuse me, an M in this case. I mean, you have to start asking these questions at some point, yet nobody seems to want to. It says, remember, misspellings matter, Durham 5-3, 1-99, Q. It's referring to all the investigations. This is referring to the fact that there is an active effort, right, to mislead the courts, to mislead our justice system, and to basically give these individual criminals a way of covering up their crimes, correct? The next one here says National Presidential Alert System 2. Why was this created and tested? Political warfare, information warfare, Q. Well, first of all, when it says 2, I'm not sure if it's meaning, are we going to have another alarm? Are we going to have another message from the president? Or is this an active threat to them to say, we've created this system, right, in order to be able to go around the fake news media who lies, we go around all these politicians who lie, and go around basically this entire corrupt system, which was put together by a very, I would say, limited group of individuals who sought to enrich themselves by selling out our country and thought they were untouchable. They thought she would never lose, and they thought that none of this would ever come to the light. But guess what? It is coming to the light. So they want to turn it into a political warfare and information warfare. Well, we'll hear what President Trump has to say about that at the end of this document, or at the end of this presentation, when we talk about the letter that President Trump sent to House Speaker Pelosi, where he made a categorical statement about her and their efforts, which can be constituted as open war against President Trump. And we'll talk about that. But here we go. One of the Anons points out Corny 480 times, Comey 0 times. And it gives a link to the justice document that we looked at. Of course, if you go and look at the document itself and you put, as I said, James Comey in or Corny in, you get 17 results. If you put Corny in, you get 163. And there's 480 pages. So out of 480 pages, I guess every one is spelled as Corny instead of Comey, right? Isn't that interesting? And Q just points to that one. The next one says, worldwide, though nothing should ever replace Christ in Christmas, Merry Christmas, Anons, Patriots, God is on our side, Q. And I have to reiterate what Q says there. You know, we have to remember what Christmas is really about. It's truly about honoring, you know, the birth of our Savior, our Lord and Savior, and remembering the sacrifice that was made, and you know, just sharing in our thankfulness for all the things that we have. So Merry Christmas to you, Q, and the team, and everyone else out there. I I know and trust in the fact that God is on our side, and I hope that you guys do too. The next one here is pretty interesting, of course, again, giving us this search result from, if you go and search the Department of Justice and you put corny in, right, you get these results right here, 14 results. Of the 14 results, you have all of these different examples where James Comey is referenced in all of these different memorandums and reports and documented examples, and yet you see here that his name is misspelled every single time. Well, wow, that's an interesting little oversight I think that somebody's made. Let's go a little further. They say James 8 Comey, going back to what Q told us, Q says corn in the kill box, metaphorical harvest, 5-5 Q. So I think we can say right now James Comey will be indicted. He will be facing charges for his crimes, and Q is giving us, I guess you could call these little Easter eggs to show us what they did and how they covered up their crimes in the first place, right? So let's get into the next post. Oh, and before I forget, you guys should go search corny yourself in the justice.gov, and maybe we should be making FOIA requests for any documents that contain the name corny in them, and try to think about how that could work. How about try searching the term Obarna? Obarna? I wonder what that would pull up. Oh, well, what do you know? Search Obarna on the Department of Justice website, and you get, I don't know, 4 results here with documents from the Justice Department that actually talk about President Obarna. Who's President Obama? Was Obarna related to Obama? It's interesting, don't you think? Perhaps we should be looking more deeply into these documents themselves. Perhaps the Anon should be doing that as we speak, or are. Yeah. So think about that. Think about it. That's what Q is telling us. Q is giving us the keys to the kingdom right now to say, you need to expose this stuff. The next one here, Jerusalem Post, writing a story about the Vatican ambassador to France resigning after molestation charges. Wow. And that's exactly it. Q says, dark delight those you are taught to trust the most. And it's sick and it's sad when people in positions like that take advantage of, especially children. It's the most despicable and disgusting and evil thing you can imagine. And that's why we're doing what we're doing, right? Because we're not just standing up for our country. We're standing up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. We're standing up for what's right and what's good. And we're standing in light as opposition to in light as opposition to the darkness, right? So yeah, the next one here, obviously we get this post that put together all of the interesting ways that you could have basically understood Q's posting about corn and everything talking about corn, and the fact that when you look at James Comey's name being spelt as corn, it all ties back together, right? Is it all a coincidence? No. And will the mainstream media talk about it? No, because they're terrified. Because not only does it show how inept and corrupt they are, but it shows that there's an open complicity against the president, with these criminals who are going against the president, I should say. Now the next one here, obviously, is this post back from July of 2019 where Q says the storm has arrived, right? Saying just because the public is unaware of something does not mean something is happening, or does not mean nothing is happening. Mueller hearing a tactic meant to delay House report. House report release necessary prior to Comey release. House plus Comey equals destruction Democrat. Democrat equals the start of the mass awakening. Democrat or White House, ABC's State Foreign, Post D comes many eyes, indictments. So, or I guess declassify, excuse me, would be the D. When blackmail no longer holds due to loss of senior level key government positions in 11th hour testimony, those previously protected become prey, hunters become the hunted, God wins Q. Yeah, I'd say that's true. But that's just another way of understanding this. And we were told exactly how the sequence of events would happen. Horowitz report, then Comey report, then it would be the declassification of the FISAs, then it would be indictments. And Q says it's worth remembering, and I would have to agree with that. So the next one here basically just is showing you the whole farce that is the impeachment hearing. You have people like Alcee Hastings, or whatever his name is, Alcee Hastings, who's coming forward and going after President Trump And this is the same guy who was a corrupt judge, apparently, who was actually thrown off the bench through an impeachment in the state of Florida. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, right? You really, really can't. Here it is, the story, the chronicle of the trial of Alcee Hastings, right? 1981, a federal grand jury indicted Judge Alcee Hastings, appointed to the federal court in 1979, along with his friend William Borders, Washington, D.C. lawyer. Hastings was charged with conspiracy and obstruction of justice for soliciting a $150,000 bribe in return for reducing the sentences of two mob-connected felons convicted in Hastings' court. A year after Borders was convicted of conspiracy, the result of an FBI sting effort, Hastings' case came before the criminal court despite Borders' conviction and the fact that Hastings had indeed reduced the sentence of the two felons. He was acquitted in a criminal court in 1983 and returned to his judicial post. Subsequently, suspicions arose that Hastings had lied and falsified evidence during the trial in order to obtain an acquittal. A special committee of the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals began a new probe into the Hastings case. The resulting 3-year investigation ended with the panel concluding that Hastings did not commit perjury, tamper with evidence, and conspire to gain financially by accepting bribes. The panel recommended further action to the U.S. Judicial Conference, which in turn informed the House of Representatives on March 17, 1987, that Judge Hastings should be impeached and removed from office. And then it just goes on to explain what happened and how it all happened, right? So this is all a part of their con game, right? That's what Q says here. Welcome to Democratic Con. Now the next one is this Fox News article, which talks about obviously the FISA court slamming the FBI over surveillance applications. And this is the incredible statement put forth by the FISA court, basically saying that everything that the IG Horowitz report uncovered is an obvious violation of the intent and established principles of the FISA court. So obviously this is just another example of the fact that we're being corroborated in showing that the court was scammed. We don't know if the judges were complicit. Obviously it's possible, but I mean, think about it. This is something that Q is telling us, and then saying discovery. Well, guess what? They're ordering now that in I think by January 10th, they have to actually turn over evidence, all evidence in its entirety of how they scammed the FISA court, and they're going to have to give more information about how to fix this problem, or in order to get more information about how to fix the problem. So Q is saying discovery, and I guess we will discover a lot through that. Of course, here the next one is the FISA court's website giving us this document, which is another example of what I just talked about, how they are requesting this information to be brought forth and put forward. I think that it was put forward on December 9th. Now it's to December 18th, and then they're going to have the full information put forth by the 10th of January. So that's what Q is pointing us to, but points us directly to a quote from that document saying, the frequency with which representations made by FBI personnel turned out to be unsupported or contradicted by information in their possession and with which they withheld information detrimental to their case calls into question whether information contained in other FBI applications is reliable. Think Flynn, FISA, illegal. So this is going to be how General Flynn is going to be, in my opinion, vindicated, especially given everything that we've seen here. Next one, Lisa Page on Twitter saying, going on the Rachel Maddow show tonight, it's time to talk about the release of my text messages, the 2 years of lies shouted across the media about me, and what it's like when the President of the United States tries to ruin your life. Well, I'll tell you what it's like when a person at the FBI lies and forges documents and tries to frame a president and tries to invalidate the votes of the majority of Americans, 60 plus million Americans who voted for President Trump. That's a pretty bad, tough place to be in, right? So think about that, Lisa, as you go on and cry on MSNBC about how you're going to be arrested for treason and trying to set up the president. Maybe then we'll come back to you. You can do a live from jail episode. Q says next, this is propaganda. Then she's going to have a GoFundMe. They all have GoFundMes. They get $1 million, right? So they can pay for fancy lawyers, right, to keep things in court for years and years. Then it's Q giving us WikiLeaks or WikiHow article on how to prepare for jail. So I think we know who may be coming as far as indictments go. The next one is reiterated by Q, and so it's twice put up, but I think that's important. It says first indictment unsealed will trigger mass population awakening. First arrest will verify action and confirm future direction. They will fight, but you are ready. Marker 9. Q. So what Q is saying basically is that once everything's unsealed, you will know exactly what's going on here, and it's going to become quite apparent that everything we've been doing is a part of this operation to effectively get these people and take them out for their crimes, take them out, legally and lawfully in a court of law, according to the book, as they have never done in their careers, right? So that's something to keep in mind. The next one here, Q says house cleaning, no mess is a stress, or no mess, no stress. And it gives this Twitter status for the Hill where it shows that the fourth Pentagon official has announced their resignation within 1 week. Do you think President Trump's cleaning house? Possibly. You think some of the individuals who are trying to set him up are the same ones that he's going to take down? Well, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there and asking you that question. It says Durham discoveries can lead to early retirement. Think FBI departures. Think DOJ departures. Q. So obviously what we're seeing here is people who have been stepping down across the board are stepping down for very specific reasons. Now the next one here is a post that is talking about the DARPA head resigning. Well, remember, what did Facebook do? Facebook was what? It was created by DARPA, right? LifeLog. And everything that they've been doing has been an attempt, in my opinion, to try to undermine our country. And not everything, but let's just say a lot of the projects that they worked on ended up weaponized against the American people, and that's not acceptable. Q says, still tracking resignations, DARPA, Facebook, Q. And then it talks about the statement from William Barr here is what we get highlighted to us by Q. Now, what is that referring to? Obviously, the statement that was put out by him on the Department of Justice, I should say, where you have the Deputy Attorney General stepping down. Or rather, the Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General. Still, these people are being taken out one by one by one, and Q's letting us know that they're cleaning house. Timing of impeachment vote revised, 7 p.m. Eastern. Interview with Barr, 7 p.m. Eastern. Coincidence? Q. So remember that Q told us to watch the interview with Attorney General Barr tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern on Martha McCallum's show. You remember that was where we left off last time? Well, now they've just happened to schedule their impeachment vote for that exact same time. These criminals are going to be exposed. And Q's redropping this finally here, saying, what happens when 90% of the media is controlled, owned by 6 corporations? What happens when those same corporations are operated and controlled by a political ideology? What happens when the news is no longer free from bias? What happens when the news is no longer reliable and independent? What happens when the news is no longer trustworthy? What happens when the news simply becomes an extension arm of a political party? Fact becomes fiction. Fiction becomes fact. What does, or when does news become propaganda? Identify creation. How does the average person who is under constant financial stress by design find time to research and discern fact versus fiction? Majority of people more prone to believe someone in power is sitting behind a big brand news name. Do people, human psyche, tend to follow the majority mainstream viewpoint in fear of being isolated and or shunned? Mainstream is used for a reason. Dominate trend in opinion. If the majority of people believe X, then X must be validated, right? Why do mainstream media heads within different organizations always use the same keywords or catchphrases like, this is a manufactured crisis, or the president has committed a bombshell crime, whatever. It says, coordinated by who? Outside entity providing instructions? Do they count on the fact that people, human psyche, are more prone to believe something if heard over and over again by different trusted sources? Do echo chamber tactics provide validation? Well, yeah. Credibility to topic being discussed. Threat to intellectual freedom. What would control of these institutions, organizations allow for the mass control of a population's viewpoint regarding a desired topic? Read again, digest. Would control over or over of these institutions, organizations allow for the mass control of population's viewpoint regarding a desired topic, logical thinking. Why, after the election of 2016, Democrats and media corporations jump-started coordinated and planned divisive blitz intended to create falsehoods regarding illegitimacy of election, character assassination of POTUS through sexism, racism, and every other ism pre-post 2016 election? Why would violent mass terror organizations such as Antifa immediately be created and funded? Why were these organizations tasked with immediate or intimidation shutdown of any pro-POTUS rally and or events? Why were marches organized? And it goes on to say that when you control the levers of news and disinformation or dissemination, you control the narrative. Control the narrative equals power. When you're blind, what do you see? They want you divided by sex, religion, race, politics, political affiliation, class. When you are divided and angry and controlled, you target those different from you, not those responsible. Divided, you are weak. Divided, you pose no threat to their control. When non-dogmatic information becomes free and transparent, it becomes a threat to those who attempt to control the narrative and or stable, livestock kept, sheep. When you are awake and you stand on the outside of the stable, groupthink, collective, and have free thought. Free thought is a philosophical viewpoint which holds that positions regarding truth should be formed on the basis of logic, reason, empiricism, rather than authority, tradition, revelation, or dogma. This presents a clear and present danger to the constitutional republic of the United States of America. Q. And finally, President Trump here in his statement to the House Speaker. I want to touch on this before we wrap it up. I know we're getting pretty long on the video, but it says here, by proceeding with your invalid impeachment, you are violating your oaths of office, you are breaking your allegiance to the Constitution, and you are declaring open war on our American democracy. You dare to invoke the founding fathers in pursuit of this election nullification scheme, yet your spiteful actions display unfettered contempt for America's founding, and your egregious conduct threatens to destroy that which our founders pledged their very lives to build. Even worse than offending the founding fathers, you are offending Americans of faith by continually saying that you pray for the president when you know this statement is not true unless it is meant in a negative sense. It is a terrible thing you are doing, but you will have to live with it, not President Trump. This is a statement from President Trump. I'm going to leave a link to this. I want you guys to read the full thing. There's a lot of very incredible stuff in here, but I read you the most important part. President Trump has identified that these people are engaged in open war. And if they want to go this path, they're not going to like the outcome, legally and lawfully speaking, I should say, right? They're not going to like the outcome of this. But that is where we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to say thank you guys for watching this episode. A few more things before we go. Watch these videos. Share them on your social media. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. And leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I want to hear what you guys have to say about all of this. Also, you can come find me over here on Twitter at JUSTINFORMED. I'm over on BitChute. You should come subscribe to the channel. Links to everything will be in the description. And also, I'm on JustinformedNews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk. And you can get a lot of information over there. Don't forget, if you want to support the channel, go to Patreon, patreon.com, and you can support the channel. It's a monthly donation. You guys keep this channel alive. They're doing everything they can to destroy this, channels like this, right? And you just heard from Q talking about when there's 6 media corporations that control everything. What do you think they want to do? They want to extinguish the voices who come with just fact-finding and logic and objectivity to and empirical research. So they want to destroy this channel and everything that we do here. And also I have a GoFundMe set up if you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation, but your support keeps all of this going. So with that, I want to wrap it up just by reading you a little verse, because we do a segment called God's Grace is Greater at the end of each one of these episodes. And I want to read this verse to you out of the book of Psalms. It's Psalm 23, and it's the Good Shepherd. And because this is such an incredible time I think that we're in right now, I want to share these words with you, and I hope they help your heart as they help mine. The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I lack. He lets me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He renews my life. He leads me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even when I go through the darkest valley, I fear no danger, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Only goodness and faithful love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord as long as I live. And I hope, folks, that those words touch your heart as they touch mine, and remind you that no matter what evil we come across, and no matter how dark the valley is that we must cross through, God is with us, and God will be there to defend us, and that no matter what, as long as we put God first, we'll be okay. Share that with your family and friends and loved ones. But I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I want to say thank you for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. Remember, hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Also, don't forget to hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. But that's going to be it from me. My name is Craig. This has been Just Informed Talk. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.